Your modesty is tremendous.
I know.
But I've never had you ask me a shayla that was not well or worthwhile. And since we are taping our sessions, I think that it's worth that all of them should know how the great Goan would ask this question at this point in his career. So now,
If somebody shouts something, do they have to have that animal separated beforehand and designated for shechita, or can you just shech? And I get that you basically. I was just wondering if you had to have it, because you have to have the aether and the kira set up beforehand, so the Mishnah in Beitza. But I'm wondering if the animal itself has to be.
Well, the animals that he has in his dominion are there.
But are they set aside? Because it seems like he ran out and took a.
You can check.
I know you can check. I'm wondering if. Or would it be more?
We assume on Yom Tov you want to go and ochel nefesh, that you go and try to go and give as much as necessary if you have more guests coming in.
Okay, the other
and
question,
you haven't got enough food.
Why do you have to leave? Then why do you leave it so far away? They have to go get it and then come back with it. Why didn't he have it set up right by his house if he was expecting guests and everything?
Wait. What's your question? Wait, Hoffman.
He went. It says Vela Bukram. Why did he have to keep it? That means he kept it all together, right? His herds were all together.
First of all,
why didn't he save the ones he was planning to use on Yom Tov near him?
Wait, Hoffman, 3 reasons. Wait, you asked the question. You have answer number 1. Question number 1. One cannot anticipate if you're going to have a guest or not.
He was expecting a guest.
Who was expecting a guest?
How come he was sitting out there expecting guests?
He was looking.
That's what it means by expecting. He was in a place where it was open by four corners. Travelers came by. He was there.
So that's looking for. So here we have, Baruch Hashem, the great truth that every Mincha Ma'ariv we have to go and work hard to get a minyan together. So when I'm here and I'm on the phone, or the Tzadok's on the phone, and we're trying to get the minyan together, we don't expect a minyan. We would love to have one.
No, you expect that you'll have one. You come here, you expect. What I meant, I always get meant by expecting it didn't have an engagement already. Didn't have an engagement already made. So in case he did, what's so difficult about taking something and putting it right near your tent? So
when he ran to the Boker to get he shechted. The Medrash says that some say he shechted 3, some say he shechted 4. That's not the usual shechita for your own household use.
He had 318 people in his household.
I know, but he must have had other things there that was already No, but this was unexpected guests, and he wanted to give each one of them a ton.
There were 4?
Well, maybe he had 8 too.
They had the butter and they had the...
tongue, yeah. I appreciate the fact, but you must understand something, that the mere fact that they were there does not necessarily mean that they were necessarily present here. If you will recall, our sessions for a long period of thing of all the way from Beersheba to Hebron, and there's a lot of area between those places. So some could be over here, some... All right, now, any other questions? Similarly, any Shiloh? Any other Shiloh? All right, now I'll ask you, Shiloh.
What was coming?
Yeah, that's good. That's another observation. You would keep a different area, obviously.
He had more than one tent.
I would imagine so, yes. This child I asked last year, and I just wanted to know if you have the Koron between last year and this year. Because the child I asked is actually a child I asked myself. Let's see, this goes back 40 years ago. I was a yeshiva bocher, and I used to come home for every Shabbos. My parents lived in Hammond, Indiana, and I was going to yeshiva in Chicago. So I'd come home for Shabbos, and daven among the Mishpalim in the Hammond shul. There was an old man. He was in his 70s, a man by name, and he had never really gotten much of a Hebrew education at all. He could daven a little bit, but he didn't understand the Pirish Hamil and
The what?
the explanation of the word. Just read it mechanically.
They didn't have linear.
And he had grown up in Europe and everything, and he came here and he was boxed out of an education. Let's go and learn every Shabbos. I'm coming every Shabbos home. So let's learn some Chumash. I'll teach you the Parish of Melish and Chumash. I'll teach you the Chumash. And we did that. We did that for 3 years. I would come home, and every half an hour, every Shabbos we'd learn. And once he said to me, why are you learning with me? He says, I'm an old man. Why are you learning with me? I said, and I answered, I said, even in a meat bar, a person wants to talk to somebody else. All right. So at the end of 3 years, he understood the Pirish Amiris of half of the Chumash. This is a man that never learned before, and he understood, he could translate half of the Chumash. He knew it. And so I'm saying Hashem Amru.
So did you learn 3 more years so you know the rest of the
He came to our wedding. He came to your mother and I's wedding. We invited him to the wedding. He came and his wife. Later he retired in Florida and he passed away, of course. Anyway, I was learning with him, and one of the things I was learning is this, and it says there in the beginning, just before Sheni. Wait, no, was this Sedra or was the Sedra prior to this one? Excuse me. Oh, wait. Avraham Avinu, especially electrical, Avraham Avinu comes there, he's just going to the Mitzrayim. So he comes to he goes to his wife, and he tells her, he says, I realize that you are very beautiful.
What's the question?
Do good for me for your sake. Tonos, they will give me gifts.
What did he need gifts?
They will give me gifts. So I wondered, don't we learn in Mishlei, if a person hates a gift, he will live? So, and of course, I'm a righteous type. How could he be wanting to get gifts? So Mr. Yansen gave me the answer. Now I see we have some Talmidim that have already learned this. And Chaim Alevi, do you remember the teretz?
Yeah.
And what's the teretz?
The teretz is that if somebody wanted, the Avraham Avinu wanted to, later he gave Avimelech a bracha. And in order, when somebody gives somebody a bracha, they bring him, first they should bring him a gift.
Yeah.
In order that it should be pleasing to the one who's going to give the bracha, so he should be inclined to give a better bracha,
Come here, here's my wife. So in order to have enough feeling to be able to pray and for it to be effective and to remove any bias that you might have, so you give it in order to make it more favorable.
We got to clarify it for those who don't quite understand the answer. Are you asking a question, Achoya? What's the question? On this question.
I don't understand. He's a very righteous. How come he does that as passes off his wife as his sister?
Well, that's another question. But
even though I know
he was afraid that they would kill her.
But
she was a different relation, not only a wife. She was a niece also.
Their nephew's brother.
She was also his niece, Shalom's nephew, and Lo's brother and sister.
Do you quite comprehend what Simalea is telling you? No, it's not a question for you. You're saying the right word, but I doubt very much if Elio understands or Batalha understands what the answer is. If with your indulgence, I'll try to give the answer. Clarify, you both said, but it wasn't sufficient, in my opinion, that they should get the entire understanding. Yes, you can understand.
Okay, you see, this guy he takes Avram's wife, and Avram's really mad at him, so he sees that in the end unless he prays for him, or in the beginning. So he figures on if he gets a gift, he may be able to pray, and since he has to pray with a proper concentration, and he has to be happy. He can't be happy if he's praying for the person who may kill his wife since he's paid. But anyway, so in other words, concentrate on saving Pharaoh because if he didn't pray for him, is Pharaoh's wife's life worth like $5 for a gift? That was, if you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That Pharaoh had to give something, he had to in some way diminish his own in order
to learn Torah and to learn from our great sages, and who is a greater sage than Avraham Avinu himself, learn Torah from our great sages, we have to understand that they understood what motivates a person and what a person will do under certain circumstances. You must understand it is not possible for a human being, even a great tzaddik, to be able to pray sincerely, totally sincerely for another person if he has any feelings hurt in relation to that other person. The prayer might not be sincere, and of course God in heaven understands whether a prayer is sincere in fact. Avraham Avinu was concerned that perhaps, God forbid, being a prophet, he would know, first of all, that Paro Melech Mitzrayim would never be able to touch his wife or hurt her, neither will Abimelech be able to do it, and he would know ahead of time that because of her great beauty, without question, the kings would want to marry her. There wouldn't even be a shaila in his mind. All he was concerned about is that perhaps innocent people might die or be hurt by virtue of the fact of what comes naturally. And being the great tzaddik that he was, he wanted to avoid people being hurt. So he told his wife that they should give me gifts in order that I should have such a feeling towards them that I can pray sincerely for their well-being. Because he was very much concerned that perhaps if they did not, even though he really wanted to pray sincerely, it wouldn't be sincere. Because it's very difficult for a person to feel kindly towards a person that did something that he wanted to hurt you. God prevented it from being hurt, but he really wanted to hurt you. It's very difficult for a human being to have that much discipline on his inner feelings as to be able to do it. And he didn't want, God forbid, that someone should be hurt because of doing what they were doing, because he realized that Sarah, his wife, was a very exceptional, attractive woman, and it was impossible for any normal man to resist her charm. Just impossible. And so therefore he was concerned that perhaps inadvertently they would hurt themselves because of what they were doing. And since he was the one that had to pray for them, so he would not be in a position to pray for them. And he was concerned of that. Now, how do we know that in fact he did not want for himself?
Wait a second.
Never had any benefit.
Seems to be saying that he was not a rich person at this point. So he used this money to give when he had to pay back on the way back. He had to pay back his debt, so he used this money to pay back his debt.
That's his explanation. I would explain it this way, and this is what my Talmud explained. He says the Rashi there and Abimelech will explain it. When he's talking about Abimelech there, where he gave him gifts.
He didn't give him gifts.
What?
Pharaoh didn't give.
He gave him Hagar.
He did. You're kidding. You mean you didn't know that? It's not even a Rashi.
Fine.
What?
Okay, fine. That's not considered a gift.
No, you would have to pray equally for both of them. First, and to Abraham he was good because of her.
He didn't come with those. How do we know that's what Pharaoh gave him? How do we know that's what Pharaoh gave him? Fine, he was good to him. He didn't kill what he had. How do we know that Pharaoh gave this to Abraham? It says, and he was good because of her, and he had, and Abraham had.
Can I give another proof, Father, for the pasuk here? Okay, Perak Yud Gimel, verse 1 and 2.
Yud Gimel, verse 1.
Okay. And Abraham went out of Egypt, okay, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. Okay, that's pasuk 1 with Alexander Harkavy translation. You published a company copy of it. So, anyway, pasuk 2 says, and Abraham was very rich in cattle and silver and gold, which was described, okay, and it says, okay, the first pasuk I'll remind you saying, and Abraham went out of Mitzrayim. The second pasuk says, and Abraham was very rich.
Okay.
Therefore, he acquired.
Right. No.
But it says outright where it says that Abimelech gave him gifts.
Yeah.
That's an outright parashakosa. It's in there. Here it just said he had. It doesn't necessarily mean
Can I ask you, did the
he gave it to him.
stipulation come?
They were both very difficult, yes.
Now, everything.
What?
Wasn't all the plagues Mitzrayim later visited Paro?
With a lot of very difficult things happened. Skin diseases developed. Skin disease. What? Do you recall?
No.
It's a skin disease, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, what?
Ravon. What do you call Rav? Type of a rash.
For me, so it would be very difficult for him. So, yes.
Yes. He got the message that this was a house that was run by, protected by God. His own daughter, Hagar, who was the princess of Egypt, as a mistress, he says it's much better to be in this house where there are...
Oh, Ra's son. It was called.
Yitzhak, because it says, and the Lord played Paro in his house with great place because of Sarah,
Yeah.
Avram's wife. So therefore I think the Rashi would be
Yeah.
under them.
So whatever...
It says here that there's 24 different kinds of boils.
Yeah,
one
this
was
is the worst.
hardest one.
This is the worst type. Worst type. You know, there's no
Which
question.
was harder than what they got in Mitzrayim?
Yeah. Well, this was the worst of the bunch. You see, a righteous type, like Abraham Avinu and Sarah, our forefather types, were so great that I learned this Shabbos, very kufhei and Tilim, that because of this truce promise that he would redeem the Jewish nation from Egypt, Abraham Avinu being such a great person. And I learned that the author of the Shnei Luchas Abris, Rav Horovitch, he said, even though the Jewish people did not have the merits to be redeemed, because of the promise that God made to Abraham Avinu, he did in fact redeem them.
But what about the sacrifice of the calf on the Shabbos Haggadah?
Oh, you're talking about the Korban Pesach and Milo. This was, of course, giving them mitzvahs again to do. But basically, they had sunk to the 49th level.
To get righteous enough to be told by God to do the mitzvah of the...
What made it possible, the righteousness of Abraham and Sarah and our other forefathers.
But
Yes.
the answer to Sheila's question was, he said in the Mitzrayim, the plague of Shin was the most difficult. You're talking about, as far as Tashmish is concerned, this was the Rosh son is the most difficult.
Yeah.
But as far as other...
Because he wanted them to understand that under no circumstances can he...
Make it so, why did he want them to perhaps stumble? Like, I know this question is in the Sicham, I just can't understand it, but I'm just wondering, according to your explanation, why does he say she's my sister when it's Eshes when it could be Eshes?
He was fearful that perhaps they were not God-fearing.
Has to show. Wait, I understand, but Abraham was relying on a miracle. He could cause that.
I would say like this: Abraham was not relying on a miracle. He was relying on God. He realized that being the situation that he was in, he was living among people who were worshiping idols no matter where he traveled. And it was fraught with great danger wherever he traveled. And he needed God to protect him at all times. He did not want to go and tempt fate because he realized that she was such a beautiful woman that every king would want her. For instance, the daughters of Usher, they're very beautiful girls. And so they all married. There was 200 of them married. A lot of them married. We had that. Usher, the daughters of Usher. Yeah,
Other daughters of Usher.
in the tribe of Usher, they had very beautiful young ladies, and as a result, they all had very good marriages. Give me the comment.
And that's where it says Shimon.
But the thing is, there by Usher, there was this concept that they had such beautiful girls that they always had very good marriages. They had. They were always married the top people, as the college touche.
Very bad joke. I'm sorry.
Somebody's trying to bust down the door.
Wait, let me see. I have it right here. Eric,
What page for those who have
page 176, at the end of the regular club solid, second line from the bottom of the first column of Rashi. He had the favor of his brethren. How's that? Shoya Benosov, his daughters, those were very beautiful. Uhushanem always married daughters of Osher because they were the most beautiful women available. And the same thing, in other words, the one that, well, we're just talking about the fact that the beauty of a woman attracts a lot of men. So, Sarah being one of the most beautiful women that ever lived, there was no question about it, and that Abraham appreciated the fact that there was no question. Every king that saw her would want her being married. You can figure it out.
Not because if it was, then he would have maybe done something different if he knew.
Shiloh, under the circumstances, why didn't he go to Lot? Why didn't he go by Lot?
When?
It was right when they came in with Abraham in Mitzrayim.
Yeah, he went down.
Oh, they were together. Okay.
And lonely, yeah. My father always told me a mimer. I found it a couple of 2-3 years ago in the Medrash. Lonely is okay. Rashi describes it as God saying a white lie in order not to say my Lord is old, when in fact there's a parish on the Medrash Rabbi that tells us that in fact that's what he said.
Talking about Hashem.
She was talking about God, that God appeared as a Zokeh. And in her opinion of Nevuah, of prophecy, he appeared in a different form to her, so that she would be then sure that the prophecy that she would have a child would be true. So therefore she said, how could this possibly be? That this prophecy that you're blessing me and I will have a child will in fact be so when I saw Ruach HaKodesh, and in her opinion it should have been a different factor. So God answered, anything too difficult for God? God can do anything. The baptism wasn't the proper, because he says the circumstances were not correct according to her analysis of what the prophecy should be.
In this case, because she is neither?
No, whatever it was.
It appeared to her in a different form than it ever did before.
Then she used to.
Then she was used to that.
So it didn't appear in the old Chacham this time?
This way.
Previously.
Oh, I presume other forms.
Or maybe
But this was one that was unusual.
That would not necessarily imply that God said a lie. So there's different midrashim on this particular point. So I want you to understand when you read Rashi, and he says something, it does not necessarily mean that's the only answer to that particular thing. For instance, Rashi says, there's one place in the Chumash that you can figure out from Rashi, and Braishis historian, when it occurred, how old Avraham Avinu was.
Yeah, 75.
He was how?
There's two memorial. Some say 70, some say 75.
Yeah. The Balaturim says 75, and Rashi says 70. So when I always quoted Rashi also appears in the more in Sanhedrin, also breaks the same mimer, that he was 70 years old at the time Braishis historian.
Wait, can I say something? It says in Lech Lecha though that he was 75 when he came here. So he must have come and then gone back and then come back.
You drop in the...
Because if he was 75...
That's exactly what they said.
If he was 70...
Look at...
When he came to Canaan.
Yeah.
And he was 70 when the Bris Bein Besorim. How could the Bris Bein Besorim be before he came to Canaan?
Okay, so
It was in Canaan.
Went ahead when he was 70, come back and then go
No,
out.
before he was 70, he went there. When he was 70, he went there and got the Bris Bein Besorim. Then he went back, came back when he was 75 and left the
Well,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
That would make sense.
Well, he had to go there just...
No, he was named Avraham.
The Bris Bein Besorim. That was it.
No, that's coming out of the Patriarch though.
No, it's Avram, both places, before he was 70.
Well, you have a...
It's in there.
Wait, I don't know where it's No, wait. I don't know if you have it in this paper. Das Kenim, I think. It's Das Kenim. It's Das Kenim, yeah. Das Kenim, the beginning of Lech Lecha. Das Kenim, it's not the other one.
I thought that was the one you're telling me.
No. Let me get to the beginning of Lech Lecha now.
No, I learned this. I think I learned it somewhere else. I don't know where.
Okay. Das Kenim.
Next up.
Probably at Dalet. Probably have to be on Dalet. The Kasha, it's difficult, Jarei, but Braishis Bein Besorim was occurred after he came out of Korah. This is very Boal Paro. It's Royal at the end of 30 years and 400 years. At that point, Shono, the Braishis Bein Besorim, it was 30 years from the time of Braishis Bein Besorim, Ad Shenoah Yitzchok. Yitzchok and Avraham was 100 years old when Yitzchok was born, and this was 30 years before that. He came Abraham Braishis. He was only 7 years old. Priest made Mitzorah. Mitzorah Momer, and you have to say, Shtei Yitzios Hoyu. There were two goings on. The Pam Rishona, the first time, Kishahoya ben Shili, when he was 7 years old, he had Lot, and Lot went with him. Goes ashore at that time. Anishba Lot was captured. Abraham captured the kings. Sorry. He came now, maybe you'll find Perish Rashi. Wait, let's go further. Yerushalmi Ahila means close to. And right after he captured the kings. And he ben was only 70 years old, but also Shona that year. Bashor Sham Chomish Shonim, and he stayed there for 5 years. Yotze, and then he went out.
Okay, I can show it to you where it is in here.
Also Yitzio called Mohab, that after that passage it says, Arma Tosif and Seder Olam, so I found in Seder Olam as well. Parsha, the time when God scattered the people, he was 48 years old. Okay, she had
Because it was 48 also.
Yeah. So, all right, now, this is what, so Seder Olam, Rashi takes this, and the Kedim Tesvis also learn like their Rebbe.
I'll show you the way he learned. See, it says, Vayelch Avram. The problem is, here Avram took Lot with him, okay, when he was 75 years old.
Yeah.
Avram took Lot with him when he was 70 years old. Then, later on, Abraham took Lot and Sarah and Lot with him when he was 75.
Whatever it is.
He didn't take Sarah with him when he had the Bris Ben Rishon then. He just took Lot with him.
But the fact is, I learned in the Bala Turi that he holds that Abraham was 75 years old, Bris Ben Sorry. So
But then how does he explain that when it says that it was 30 years from the time of Bris Ben was...
So, knowing that the Prophet was also a Rishon, so I didn't immediately come to my mind to say the Baal Turim is mistaken and Rashi is correct. I withheld my judgment until I ran across a medrash that says, in fact, like the Baal Turim says.
Then what's the 430 years?
There are two midrashim. One medrash says like Rashi, and one says like Baal Turim, different shop. But he has a different medrash, so you can learn according to either medrash. I usually translate it like the Rashi because that's what I usually, just like when I'm used to accustomed. All right, any other shilas? And this we said that.
Oh, there's plenty of I don't think.
All right, we'll hold it at this point then. Okay, so we'll lean at Chai Sora tonight. And if you have any shilas, have you gone over to Center B'Choyel?
I reviewed it a little bit last night.
Fine. What about you?
If you're talking about Vayera, I went over the center a little, but I got to finish it. Sarah, I believe her in the future. I intend to do it. And also, a few months ago, I did it.
Vayera, if you wish, we can discuss that as well as Chai Sora. If you have any shayla in the last 2 weeks, the Medrash tells us that Chai Sora, you see there, Vayiyu Chai Sora, there was the life of Sora, Mea Shana, 100 years, the Esrim Shana, and 20 years, the Sheva Shonim, and 7 years, Shnei Chai Sora, the years of the life of Sora. It seems to be a repetition in the thing. First it says, why to repeat Chai Sora? The Medrash says that because she earned a portion in the world to come. Not only did she get
Life in this world, she got life
in the world to come too. A great righteous type, our foremother, Sora, earns all these merits, like her husband also. He earns the highest merits in both places because he deserves them.
Oh, and I think the Sarah's death, it seems to be the end of everything for her. It's just a starting for her.
That's right.
The world. That's why she.
And we learned in Medrash Chuma, in the Bracha, in the end of Medrash, that in fact the death of a tzaddik is just the beginning of everlasting life. It's not really a death in the sense that it's a killing or a punishment, but in fact it's a reward. A great tzaddik, like Moshe Rabbeinu, and now here we're talking about Sora and Abraham Avinu, by virtue of the fact that during their lifetime they were true and faithful to the service of God, and they did all the mitzvahs as best they could, in the very best way they possibly could, and they influenced others to do likewise. These earn a tremendous reward. And the Medrash Tanchuma tells, like I was talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, but it applies to any tzaddik, that in fact a debt is not to be construed by a tzaddik as a killing or a punishment, but in fact it is a reward. It is the way in which you enter into the world of neshamas, the world of souls. And there the souls are gathered together under the kisiyah, under the divine throne of the Almighty God. And there they stay there in the world of souls until there comes the time of the Chiyas HaMesim, of the resurrection of the dead, when God will reunite the body and the soul.
When you're close to the afterlife, you mean you still haven't gone to the final thing?
No. Then it goes from the world of the souls into the Chiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, where
Which
the righteous.
Could be, we don't know how long.
We don't know when that will be, but when it does occur.
What is the place before the resurrection of the dead, like a paradise?
This will be eternal paradise.
But it's not the eternal, it's something...
No, it will be of all eternity paradise, the resurrection of the dead, when the righteous...
But the one before it is...
the world of the souls.
The world of the souls, that's the one where we go next.
We go next
if
we make it.
Or sometimes we just go straight to the Chiyas HaMesim if we don't die.
If it happens that the Chiyas HaMesim occurs in our time.
But if it doesn't, so we go to the world of souls.
If we manage to become tzaddikim.
Well, Elio, Rabbi,
If you'll notice, I don't know if you've ever been in a Jewish cemetery, you'll notice there, it says, the soul be bound in the bound of light. That's what we're talking about. Where they come,
the souls of Abraham, Isaac,
we want all of them to be bound with the souls of the righteous. And that this person's
that's
soul...
where the righteous are.
Yeah, that's where they are, under the Kisei HaKovod, under the heavenly throne of God, until such time as God sees fit to make the resurrection of the dead occur. This is in the commentary on the Medrash Tanchuma and the end of Zos HaBrocha. But now in this week's Sedra, we have here, if you'll notice, could you bring me the Mikros?
Where?
The Mikros on the second Pasuk base. Yeah. Chai Soros.
Yeah, I got that.
Thomas Sorah, the Kiryas Arba, in Hebron.
Wasn't with Sarah when she died?
We have different Mamorim as to where he was. One wanted to say that he was at Mos Machpelah. He was at Har Moriah, where the Maisa Akedah occurred.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know it in that term.
Yeah, Akedah, the binding of Yitzchak. It was his own idea, because he said when his father suggested that perhaps God wanted him to be the Korban Olam, the burnt offering to God, he said, if you shech me, Dad, I'm willing to die al Kiddush Hashem, but I don't want, God forbid, that you should make a bracha of Avatolo, a blessing for nothing. Because even though I'm willing at this point to do, maybe at the last moment, I might jerk away because nobody wants his throat to be cut, the natural preservation. Nobody wants to die. It's all very well to talk about willing to die, but another thing when it actually comes to the actual action. So he requested of his father that he tie him with his hands and his feet behind him so that he couldn't move, so that his father, when he would make the slaughtering process on him, he would not make a improper slaughtering.
He didn't get that far of binding
No,
him, did
he did bind him.
He did?
Yes, he did bind him. And he took out the knife and he was about to go and check them.
But in Genesis, when you read it, it doesn't...
Well, there again, what I am amazed, what I'm amazed, that every week we have the same wonderment by you, that because of you read it in the text.
But you should be able to, I would think, get that out.
You're not supposed to.
You're not permitted, the Pasuk in the Torah, the written Torah, that's what we call the Tanakh. You're not supposed to assume that you know what it really means unless you look in Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah, which we call the Medrash and the Talmud. You understand? This I've told you many times.
Yes, I know.
there's no reason in the world to be confused. You expect ahead of time that this is like the tip of an iceberg.
It's just that I read mainly
Unfortunately.
and then I read the interpretations, and then
The interpretations are different altogether than just the plain translation. Now, what do you...
Wasn't it the Tanakh used as a code to remember the rest of the Torah? It was just like...
Whatever it is certainly not inadequate in and of itself. And it's not
And then
to be
the Mishnah was just an index.
whatever it is, you must understand, you're never to be assuming that you understand
Well, it wasn't
what
right,
it
but-
means without going into the Talmudic literature. It's impossible to understand it. And it certainly would be misunderstood if you just tried to interpret the words literally as you read them. All right, now what is your commentary?
Okay, I'll quote from the Medrash says,
That's an English translation. That's a very nice sefer, incidentally. It's written in English.
read much.
Yeah.
Quite a-
Whatever it was, he calls out from the Reddit various midrashim, and it's very beautiful the way it is. And for those of you that unfortunately haven't got the skill yet to learn the original, that's all right. But of course, it's inadequate in the true sense of the word, because translations sometimes leave a little to be desired. I have not really looked at it, so maybe I'm being critical. I shouldn't be. And of course, it doesn't have the commentary. I know, but it doesn't have all the commentaries. So therefore, I understand. So therefore, if it would be a complete translation of all the text and all the commentaries, then I would say it would be a
maybe twice the size of a Medrash.
so what? It doesn't make any difference. At least you would have all the material. This way, you're just getting a sample of what it means. But even that sample is very
Beautiful.
exciting and beautiful. All right, now you can read for Mikhail.
You already filled in a lot, so I'll go for the middle of this. Okay?
All right, fine.
Avram tied Yitzchak's hands and feet together and prepared the fire and wood. He kept his eyes on Yitzchak while his tears poured over him. Yitzchak's eyes were directed towards heaven. Avram steadied his arm and stretched out his hand to take the knife. He examined it to determine if it was halakhically fit for slaughter.
In order to make a ritual slaughtering so that food can be kosher,
But even on a human being?
you're shechting it, you're making a ritual slaughtering, you've got to do it correctly. The knife is not supposed to be with any blemish. They call it the gimon. And the sheikh, the one that's slaughtering it, must examine the knife, and he runs in the olden times he used to run both the flesh of the finger as well as the nail on the knife. Nowadays you do it with the nail. We sharpen the nail, smooth, and then we go over the edge of the knife, up and down, and on the side, up and down, and we have to discern the slightest nick on that knife. If it has the slightest nick, it's not permitted to be used for ritual slaughtering. It takes a great deal of practice to the point that you can actually feel a very small nick, I'll call it the gimon. I recall, I told you I have Kabbalah on Shrita. I recall when I had Kabbalah Ophos on poultry, and I was studying for also to become Sheikh and Bodik, one that examines for the bigger thing. I did do some Badika. I did over 500 lungs in the stockyards, and I slaughtered some calves and everything. But I never really got it because I got smicha, and I was practicing law, and now I'm teaching. I don't have time for that. At any rate, I'm getting older now anyway. And you learn how to prepare a challah, a knife, a slaughtering knife, and you try to smooth it in such a way that it's very smooth and very sharp, without any nicks whatsoever.
Does the animal feel pain?
Well, if it is smooth and sharp, and since you have to cut,
He's not drugged or anything,
no,
right?
it's not supposed to be, otherwise it's not kosher.
So they just straight out.
And it is a very swift losing of consciousness, because it cuts the the vital, vital blood organ. Besides, it's supposed to cut the food pipe and the windpipe, the trachea and the esophagus. These both, what do you call them? These two have to be cut in the ritual slaughtering. And if there's the slightest nick, the sheikh must know about it and not use that knife until he works it over, works it out by sharpening it. And there was an incident that occurred after I got Ebola opos on poultry. And I remember I was in yeshiva for 6 years, and they had this class start, and my father, blessed memory, told me, I want you to learn that. I didn't really go for shedding of blood or anything, but since my father asked me to do it, so I did do it.